Hello, my name is Makani Sabalabaktat, and for my final film presentation, I chose to do it on the 2003 film by Sofia Coppola, Lost in Translation. To give a brief summary, Lost in Translation is about a film of two people that are disconnected from their lives and from the world around them, and together, as they become closer, they begin to grapple with those issues and find solutions and begin to resolve those issues that they encounter within the film. The film is set in 21st century Japan, specifically in Tokyo, in the Park's Hyatt Hotel and around Tokyo. As for characters, we have two main characters within the film. Firstly, we have Bob Harris, who is a movie star. He's married with kids. And while in Japan, he kind of experiences an existential crisis, especially when it involves his career and what he's doing with his life currently. He's forced to stay in Japan for a shoot, a commercial, and to do a TV show later on. And for Charlotte, she's a university graduate, recently married compared to Bob. She's been married for 8 years, while he's been married for 25. And she's really questioning her relationship. She's really disillusioned by it, and she's having second thoughts about her husband and being able to connect to his life and lifestyle. Because he's a, famous photographer who goes out a lot, and he's well known, and he hangs out with a different crowd than her, and that's really starting to drive a wedge between them. While in Japan, she's really curious about her surroundings. She goes out and explores often, and tries to figure out her own life through exploration of that environment and trying to apply what she sees on the outside world to herself. And together, they both experience this issue of loneliness throughout the movie. But as they come together throughout the movie and become closer, they begin to deal with that issue effectively, and by the end we have a clear resolution and they have a lot of weight lifted off their shoulders by the end. And for themes, there are 4 main themes that I identified within this movie. First is alienation. Both Bob and Harris, mainly Bob more often than, Bob and Charlotte. Bob is the one who experiences more culture shock than Charlotte. He's really separated from his environment of Japan and the culture throughout the movie, and we see that through several scenes. Throughout the movie, he's often just chauffeured around Tokyo or the hotel by this entourage of Japanese people, and he doesn't really connect with anyone besides Charlotte throughout the movie. Even people that recognize him from America or the United States, he doesn't really get along with. Loneliness, as I said before, is a common theme throughout the movie. Barb and Charlotte have a lot of baggage to deal with before the movie starts, and as we go through it, it really becomes apparent how strong their loneliness is affecting their life. Especially Bob with his marriage and his wife and kids. Throughout the movie, they're not present in Japan, but his wife is constantly affecting him throughout the trip without even being there, through sending faxes or phone calls, especially the faxes. Since there is the time difference, they incorporate that into the film and showing how far apart they are in their marriage, because at 4:20 in the morning or around early in the morning, she'll be sending faxes at the dead of night and just constantly bother Bob. And when Bob is trying to be appreciative or try to share his life and kind of uplift things, she kind of cuts through that and pretty much lowers Bob to the point he was at in life. And that leads to the existential crisis that Bob experiences, especially Charlotte too, in trying to figure out her own life. But for Bob, he's questioning his life ambitions and experiences so far. And that's mainly tied to his career and what he's doing at the moment. It's implied throughout the movie that Bob is this really huge star in America, kind of like an action star. Kind of compare him to, I would say, what's that guy in the, Mission Impossible movies? Tom Cruise. He's kind of like a Tom Cruise kind of character. But at this point in his career, he's kind of washed up, and the only thing that he's doing at the moment are commercials in Japan and a TV show. And it's really showing that his only ability to be able to do well in the industry is by shooting film, or not shooting films, but just shooting commercials and things that he believes that are below him. Within the movie, he says that he should be doing a play instead of doing this kind of work at the moment. And finally, we see a literal lost in translation within the film. Throughout the movie, there's different hints of translations gone awry. Specifically, there's the scene in the beginning where the director of the commercial is trying to translate his vision to Bob through a translator, and he's giving very specific visions and descriptors to Bob, like please characterize or become this character from this movie when you're doing this commercial, and then the translator will just translate that into please turn your head to the left. So giving really bland or definitely not true translations, and it really becomes apparent throughout the movie that this is a film about the translations that don't make it through. Another example is when Bob and Charlotte are in the hospital to bring her in for her foot injury that she gets within the movie. Bob is trying to communicate with this old Japanese man, but they're having a hard time, and there's women laughing in the background because of the difficulty that Bob and the old man have in trying to communicate. And for Charlotte, it's understanding her appointment with her doctor and what he's trying to communicate with her and what her foot is experiencing and what the issue is, and they're having a hard time trying to communicate as well. And moving on to the production of Lost in Translation, to give a little background, the movie was influenced by Sofia Coppola's personal experience in Japan. The film contains a number of details directly tied to herself. There's certain characters that are based specifically off of people that she's met in life. At one point, Charlotte and Bob go out to meet one of Charlotte's friends. His name is Charlie Brown, or he's nicknamed Charlie Brown, and he's based directly off of Sophia's own friend and tour guide from Japan, and who she hangs out with often. A lot of personal experiences within the film are also a part of Sofia Coppola's life. Like the husband character of Charlotte, John, is kind of based off of the husband of Sofia Coppola, her first husband, and how she was trying to grapple with emotions in being a marriage for the first time and trying to deal with the emotions and the experiences that are often accompanied with marriage. And for the production setting, it was shot entirely on location in Japan. To get some of the scenes, they had to do some guerrilla-esque filmmaking. A lot of times they didn't have permits to film in locations. At one time they're in Shibuya, and Charlotte is just doing her usual, just meandering and trying to experience Tokyo. And that film specifically is one that is shot without permission. And they nearly got kicked out and were threatened with arrest if they didn't stop shooting, but they managed to get the shot, and it really adds to the ambience and the aesthetic of the film. So a lot of the shots throughout this film are really basic. A lot of just still shots with the camera in place. No panning, no like setting the scene or anything like that. It's just dead on, just focusing on the characters. And what it does, it really adds to the, I would say, loneliness and the groundedness of the film itself, and not adding too much extra flair and just keeping it to the bare minimum and the simple aesthetic of the film. For some of the technical details, this film was shot in film against the advice of Sofia Coppola's famous father, Francis Coppola. He's well known for filming and directing the Godfather series, which are one of the most popular films within American filmmaking. Coppola believed that digital video was the future, and that it would be the best effective means of connecting that to modern Hollywood, while Coppola believed that shooting in film gave it a more romantic feel to it, a more real feel to what she was trying to portray and the story she was trying to tell. And connected to that is the use of soft natural lighting throughout the film. The cinematographer wanted to really maximize the use of natural lighting to give it a really soft effect throughout the movie and give it a dreamlike quality and being, as I said before, grounded in life and not just some far off romantic drama that was really apparent within this time in filmmaking. Also, this film was filmed within 27 days, so it had a really short runtime or a really short production date. It really took a toll, as was described by both the actors and the filmmakers on themselves. Having that short time meant that they had to book in a lot of, time within the day. The earliest they shot was during the morning at 2 a.m. because the hotel didn't allow them to shoot earlier or later on in the day, so it would disrupt their guests. So they had them shoot at 2 a.m. and for the bar scenes that are included within the film, they had to get those shots in before sunrise would really disrupt their lighting and cause some harshness to the scenes. So they really had really short production times and schedules. So from 2 a.m. all the way up to, let's say, 5 a.m., they had to shoot certain scenes. And the crew of this movie was a mix of Japanese and Americans. The cinematographer and the director really shows how challenging that was to work with other filmmakers and production people of a different background and a different culture. The cinematographer himself thought it would be a really hard transition and a hard mix, but to him it was actually easier because the gaffers or the lighting crew, unlike American counterparts that he noted to be more clumsy and would just knock things over, the Japanese were more mindful of their surroundings, and they really showed that on the set as well, and were really just quiet and respectful and really mindful of their surroundings. As I've said before, limited times to film during the day, so that short time frame within the day to film certain scenes in the hotel, and as well as scenes that are on the external environment, such as filming in Shibuya or the train station and subway scenes, as well as the final scene between Charlotte and Bob, where they're outside in a crowd having their final moments together. The critical response of this movie was generally high praise by critics and audiences. A lot of the film reviewers gave this film the highest possible review rating. But as well as that, there was a lot of criticism for the portrayal of the Japanese people and society, and a lot of that criticism came from Japanese people themselves, due to the portrayal of Japanese people and society as this far-out, outlandish culture whose people don't really conform to normal American behavior, I guess, as portrayed in the film. A lot of them are really just goofy kind of characters. In the beginning, the director of the commercial sends Bob, I would say it's like a fantasy woman she's casted as in the film, and she's trying to get Bob to rip her stockings, and it's this really silly scene within the film that I guess is really portrays the Japanese people in a silly sort of way. That scene particularly was based off of a friend's experience of Coppola's friend's experience in Japan, where she was sent a Japanese prostitute, and they had that kind of experience, this silly situation where this prostitute was trying to get Coppola to, or not Coppola, but Coppola's friend to just interact with her, and it became this silly situation. But yeah, there's a lot of portrayals of Japanese people within this film that are outlandish, and Coppola responded by saying that it was based mainly as a Valentine's. The film was a Valentine's to Japan, and she was just trying to provide a means of understanding Japan as she saw it as this wonderful place where she found herself. And that is it for my video presentation for this class. I would highly recommend seeing this film for yourselves. It's really a great film. It's unlike other like romantic comedies or any romantic dramas that are produced, especially during this time in the 2000s and even now in the late 2010s. It's a really interesting and unique movie and film compared to others. It's grounded, it's simple, and it really feels uh, a real life story, you could say, and you can really connect to the characters in a sense, in what they're feeling and what they're trying to accomplish within their lives and what they're trying to resolve as well. And that's it. Thank you very much.